In Hawaii, we have set a goal of achieving 100% renewable portfolio energy standard for generating electricity. Our next speaker, Henk Rogers, is doing his part to help us meet these regional and state goals. He also embodies the West's entrepreneurial spirit. If anyone can make all the pieces fit together, it is the man who made Tetris a worldwide phenomenon more than 20 years ago. Mr. Rogers revolutionized the industry when he brought the now legendary game to the US and world markets over 3 decades ago, clearly a man ahead of his time. His ability to bring people together to work on complex issues is epitomized by his facilitation of one of the industry's most fruitful partnerships between Tetris and Nintendo's Game Boy. He now applies these skills to serving as the Blue Planet Foundation's principal and visionary philanthropist. The Blue Planet Foundation is a nonprofit in Hawaii that is finding creative ways to remove the obstacles that stand between us and a future free from fossil fuels. The foundation helped us establish Hawaii's Clean Energy Initiative, which was the foundation upon our commitment for 100% clean renewable energy. Mr. Rogers is also demonstrating how we can achieve our clean energy goals at his Pu'uwawa Ranch here on Big Island. The ranch is home to the Blue Planet Energy Labs, which produces renewable energy that is used to power the ranch, stored in batteries, and converted into hydrogen fuel. Blue Planet is currently researching how to increase electric and hydrogen-fueled transportation in the islands. Mr. Rogers, thank you for joining us and your commitment to clean energy, and welcome to the Western Governors Association.
Aloha.
Aloha.
All right, everybody starts that speech that way in Hawaii, don't they? I'm here to talk to you about how we can achieve 100% renewable energy by 2045, putting aside all the politics. It's something that we need to do. A little bit about my history that Governor kind of covered it. How many of you have heard of Tetris? All right, I like that. How many of you have played Tetris? Oh, all right. So I'm sorry for all the time that you wasted, but it's made your, it's like mental exercise. It's made your mind sharp. Well, 12 years ago, after just a month after I sold one of my companies, and I made enough money so I could buy a ranch on the Big Island, I found myself in the back of an ambulance with 100% blockage of the Widowmaker, which is, if I was here, I would have died that day. I was lucky I was in Honolulu. First thing I thought, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I haven't spent any of the money yet. The second thing I thought was, no, I'm not going. I still have stuff to do. And so I got to thinking about stuff in the recovery room in the next couple of weeks. And I found my missions in life. And I hope that it doesn't take a heart attack for everybody in this room to find out what their missions in life are. It did that for me, and it stopped me from spending all of my energy and time making computer games or thinking about that area. On a personal level, I mean, we can all do something, and I did something. So I stopped eating meat. I found out that meat is a big contributor to, well, not carbon dioxide, but methane, specifically cattle, and I'm surrounded by cattle in where I am at Pu'uwa'a, which was a ranch in the old days. So I don't eat meat. I try to figure out, okay, what does it mean to be off-grid? And I was first going to help Hawaii and then the other islands. And so I said, well, let's take the ranch off-grid and see how hard that is. And it turned out to be relatively easy. And this is like 6 years ago when we did this. It cost me about as much as the solar panels to do the storage. So double the cost of the solar panels. That was a rule of thumb then. Of course, in the meanwhile, solar panels have become cheap, but also storage has become cheap. I created the foundation, Blue Planet Foundation, and that's to work on my first mission in life, which is to end the use of carbon-based fuel. That's the way I looked at it back 12 years ago. I think that's the problem is in that statement. It's got the word "end" in it, which I don't think we need to use the word "end." I think it's much better for us to think about how can we transition to 100% renewable energy, which there's no end. It's only a beginning, and it's a new industry. I started the Blue Planet Foundation, and I went to visit, at the time, Governor Lingle. And I started explaining what I'm doing, and Governor said, "You have no idea what you're doing, do you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm a computer game designer, so I really don't, but I will." So she asked, "Well, what do you think my number one concern is regarding oil?" Because I was saying, we should end the use of carbon-based fuel, and she said, "My number one concern is security. If for some reason the flow of oil stops, because there's a conflict somewhere or the Arabs don't like us or whatever, we stop getting energy and we go dark in 26 days. We have an average of 26 days of food and 26 days of energy and 6 days of food in Hawaii. And we don't have a way to evacuate people to someplace else. There's just not that kind of infrastructure." Today, I think I know a little bit about it. My foundation has had a bunch of breakthroughs, but before I get to that, I'd like to play the video. This is my 7-year-old niece.
Home. But our home is changing.
Breaking news on Kauai tonight. Devastating flooding.
Widespread damage. Homes on the verge of collapsing.
The world is changing.
The largest wildfires in the state of California.
Tonight, the rain is over, but the disaster is not.
I worry sometimes when I think about my future. What will it be like when I grow up? Would it be like what my parents remember? Climate change scares me. But we know that it doesn't have to be this way. We can change. That's why I'm grateful for Blue Planet Foundation. For the past 10 years, Blue Planet has been leading the way for clean energy. They think if we can do it in Hawaii, we can show the entire world what a clean energy future looks like. They brought together hundreds of students just like me to be a part of the change.
Say now, win! Win! All right, now everybody get your signs. Everybody get together. Make your voice heard. Make your future happen.
They joined their families and neighbors to draw the line on climate change.
Our voices really matter, and us being here today is showing something and showcasing to the world that we really care about this issue and we want to take a stand.
And in 2015, their efforts paid off when Hawaii passed our country's first 100% renewable energy law. It's nice to know when I grow up, all our energy will come from clean sources. And now Blue Planet is growing. The Repower Project is working to bring Hawaii's 100% renewable energy law to other states. Now Blue Planet is active every day, making this change happen. They are in our classrooms and in our communities. We still have a long way to go. We have a lot of work to do. I'm excited about the new future we are creating. We can help solve our climate crisis, starting in Hawaii, and we'll inspire the world. But we can't do it alone. Will you help? For my future.
So Mia is 7 years old, and she spent 7 hours doing this. Now she remembers the whole thing. She can recite it. She's going to be an actress someday. So I would say probably the one thing that Blue Planet Foundation has done is we've reached out to the children and explained to them in a non-aggressive way what the situation is and what we can do about it. It's not that hard. Renewable energy is already cheaper than fossil fuel. So the thing that I think that we accomplished in Hawaii, I mean, there are like, yeah, we did 100% by 2045, which I think is a great accomplishment. But we changed the conversation. The conversation used to be, sorry, but we can't. And why is that? Because, well, we don't know of another way of doing it besides the way we're doing it. And now the conversation is, we will. So the interesting part of this whole thing was the story of the electric company. So the electric company is the biggest company in Hawaii. You could say they're the most hated company in Hawaii because we pay the greatest part of our salary for the energy. And they have been saying, and they fight us, you know, they have their lobbyists. I have my lobbyists, they have their lobbyists, and we like try to convince the legislators back and forth. And they said, no, we can't do this, we can't do this, and you know, it's too complicated, blah, blah, blah. Well, after the governor said, we're doing this by 100% by 2045, guess what the electric company said? We actually looked at it, and we can do this by 2040 and save ratepayers $7 billion. Can you believe it? I mean, they went from not being able to do it to now saying they can do it, and they can do it sooner, and they can save, this is the big part, ratepayers $7 billion. Who have they been working for all this time? Their shareholders. They don't really give a hoot about the ratepayers, the people of Hawaii. And I hear a lot about, okay, for rich people to make the switch over, they can afford solar panels, they can afford electric cars and so on. What about the rest of the people? Well, right now, I say this. We spend as a state 3, 4, I've heard as high as $5 billion a year on oil. That number is being paid by ratepayers. The electric company makes a percentage on top of the cost of oil. So they really don't care where it comes from. But it's the ratepayers, it's the people, it's your constituents. So a little bit about, you know, the governor mentioned I have a little laboratory at the ranch. I started by saying, let's take this ranch off the grid, let's find out what it's about. We went through different battery technologies, and we found a battery that we liked that doesn't catch on fire, and has a long battery life and has benign chemistry. If anybody is interested, I'm doing an energy lab tour at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And as the governor said, we figured out if you build solar to the point where it's enough, the answer is you have to make it enough on a cloudy day. So what happens on a sunny day? And the answer is you have way more than enough. So what happens in the state of Hawaii and what happens at my ranch is on a sunny day, we have way too much energy. And the word curtail is in every PPA, the power purchase agreement. The electric company has the right to curtail as much as 50% of the energy produced by the solar arrays or the wind. What does this mean? It's like we spend $3, $4, $5 billion a year and we're throwing away energy at the same time. That doesn't make any sense. So we did a little bit of thinking about what should we do, and the answer, I think, is that we make hydrogen with the extra energy. And hydrogen can be used as storage for on a rainy day, so to speak. But it can also be a ground transportation fuel. Right now, electric cars are making their inroads, but the next wave of transportation will be hydrogen trucks and buses. And that's already happening in China. We're falling behind China, by the way, which really pisses me off. So where are we? So as a result of this research, we came up with a battery system, and now being an entrepreneur, I said, okay, fine. My wife told me don't start another company, but I started another company, and we sell battery systems all over the country to help people either stay off grid or go off grid. And our biggest customers right now are in Puerto Rico. You know, here's the problem. If you have panels on your roof or on your building, when the grid goes down, So do your panels, because you're connected to the grid, and the electric company can't afford to have any electricity coming from panels while they're fixing the grid. And if it takes them a year, that means you have a year with panels on your roof producing electricity, but you can't use them. How dumb is that? So we are working with the Red Cross in Puerto Rico, and we're installing energy storage on schools. These are the emergency centers, so that when a blackout happens, they still have enough energy to get through the night with light and communication. Those are the two things that you really need. So the bottom line, I love this little story. FDR called in the leaders of Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler at the beginning of World War II, and he said, "What business are you in?" They said, "We're in the business of making cars." And he said, "No, you're not. You're in the business of making tanks and airplanes." And so all those companies switched over to making tanks and airplanes, and we won that war. And that was leadership. So the time that we have reached is where leaders have to take leadership. All you have to do is say, hey, this is an emergency. It's not business as usual, because business as usual is going to take my country, my state, it's going to ride off at the end of a cliff. We're in a situation where governors, leaders have to give orders, not take orders. All I'm asking you to do is to mandate 100% renewable energy by 2045 in your state, and we will get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.